Hi, my name is Don and I own West Coast Classic Cougar. This is not my car, but it's one of my best customers' cars. And whenever a customer has multiple Cougars and buys everything from me, when it's time to sell it, I try to help out. So this is how I'm going to help out today. I'm going to take about 45 minutes and we're really going to go over this car from one end to the other. And we're going to be putting this car in at $1 no reserve. So let's get started. First of all, Nordic blue. This is the original color of this car. And arguably, this is one of the top 2-3 most popular colors for these cars. In the day they were popular, and these days everybody loves, in the white top I think is just striking on it. So this car marks a lot of the boxes that your average classic Cougar purchaser wants. 74,000 original mile, 2-owner California black plate car that's never been rusty. It's the big block 390 and the XR-7 package, and it's not perfect. Most people these days, it seems like, don't want a trailer queen they can't drive. They want something they can drive and show and be proud of and maybe make a few little tweaks and improve it. So I think that's this car. And so I'm going to walk you around and show you the goods and the bads. Here we go. Chris spent a lot of money on this car. More money than you're going to pay for it, which is a good thing for you. He got a lot of enjoyment out of doing the work and driving the car too, so not a bad thing for him. But it's had a repaint several years ago, and of course when you do a repaint, you got to do all the weather stripping, and you can't leave the old dingy top on, and the chrome needs to be redone. So basically everything on the outside, this car is just dripping with West Coast Classic Cougar products. First off, one of our re-chrome bumpers. All the anodized trim on this car has been replaced. Unlike most people, this has actually been bright dip clear anodized. A lot of what people call restored trim is just straightened and polished, which we all know aluminum goes ugly after a while. I want to draw your attention to these tires and wheels. These are the original 5-spoke rallies. Here's how you tell reproductions from originals. You reach back and you can feel that they're riveted on. You got the big nail head rivets coming here. The reproductions are welded on. So that's neither here nor there. That means you're going to have duller chrome, but it also means you're going to have less problems with rusting and less problems with balancing issues on the original Kelsey Hayes wheels. Reproduction trim rings, notice they do not have the brushed finish. Some people actually like the chrome as opposed to the matte finish brushed rings that were in 6.8. These tires, you will not find these anywhere. He had these custom made. And a couple years ago, I spotted this at a show, and I'm like, I gotta have those. Until I checked out the price. But as you know, most white walls these days, the white wall is indexed in the wrong place and is way too wide. So not only, he even got the spare done. I mean, that was big money to get 5 of these custom-made tires done. So I really like that touch on this car. We got a nice, glossy, straight paint job on this car. It's not perfect, but we'll say close. It always helps when you start out with a really nice body. Also want to draw your attention to these 6.5 liter emblems. This has a 390 in it. Originally, it was a 2-barrel 390. He's put some GT items on it, as in a 4-barrel Holley. If this was a GT, it would say GT. If a guy wanted to finish converting this to a GT, these emblems are actually worth several $100s for the pair. And GT emblems, reproduction, are just really cheap. So those are very valuable emblems there if somebody wants to continue this. Reproduction rocker moldings. I noticed we got a clip here that's not lining up. Minor. Also notice no blisters. And this is not a fresh paint job. I'm always leery of, 9-month-old paint jobs. What's going to pop through? Sometimes it takes a year or 2 or 3 for the boogers to pop through. So we've gone beyond this stage on this paint job. We aren't seeing the blisters anywhere down low. Again, a low-mile California car that was well taken care of. Not much to point out here. You can sight down this and there are no ripples. I'm not seeing any imperfections in the paint. No door dings. The door hinges on this. Just a tiny bit of play. Shuts like it should. The vinyl top was done years ago, and when they put it on, there was no rust. But you won't be able to see it, but if you feel ever so right here, just a little bit of a raised area, that makes me think there's a rust bubble starting there. I think that this trim ought to be removed and that peeled back and your favorite magical treatment stuff put on there before it turns into real rust. Right now it's just a little bump. It's not rust through. This trim, it looks like when they did the vinyl top, the installer didn't know what he was doing. If the bidding on this car gets over $31,000, I'm gonna take this trim off and put a set of West Coast Classic Cougar restored trim on there. I don't have any in stock right now. It'll be a couple weeks before that's in, but I'd like to do that for the owner if it hits 32. It probably should hit 32 and above because the 68 two-barrel car, 302, that I sold the other day here on Bring a Trailer, in my opinion, is maybe not as desirable this because that car didn't have AC and tilt and big block. Maybe there's more people wanting blue than gold, so I'm guessing this car is going to go north of 30, but at $1 no reserve, we just don't know. We got original, not reproduction taillight lenses that are just perfect. These are unrestored bezels with no pits. You know, you can see a little bit of age on some of this chrome. Maybe some 4/0 steel wool would make it look better, but unrestored there. This, of course, is our trim and bumper and everything. The valence has just a little bit of a wonk here. Not much, and I would think a guy with just his hands could massage that back into place. You know, it's like something just caught it one day right there. The backup lights are original, showing a little pitting. Doesn't look that bad, but on a car of this caliber, I'd just buy a brand new set with the new gaskets and everything. It's inexpensive. And again, if the bidding gets over $31,000, I think I'll just throw those in for free. Here we go. We got a Mercury emblem here that isn't our reproduction, so it's not as good a quality as it could be. Not terrible, but the lines are just not quite as crisp as they could. I think maybe it's been re-chromed and they polished is why I'm seeing the muted look to that. Again, another item I'll throw in for free once the bidding hits 31. Let's walk onto this side. We got nice bumper alignment here. All these original rubber items are still flexible and uncracked, which is getting hard to find. Just not finding any real imperfections that need to be pointed out in the video. The wheel lip moldings, I can't tell if they've been restored or they're NOS. They look NOS, to be honest with you. Here's an area where these cars are known for rusting out. See no blisters here. I did notice a chip here. And this is a good area to touch up. I don't like doing touch up out in the middle here, but when it's right on the edge, I think a guy with a steady hand is going to make that real clean looking. So I'm assuming, since these gaps are within tolerance, I'm assuming when they put it together or something, they bumped it and then the paint didn't fall off till later. I really like this. Those that know me, I'm really into original cars. But electric antenna is a really good idea. They look good, and when you're talking about a car cover, it's just so hard to get your car cover over that little hole every time. So that's a minor custom touch that I really like. The glass, just unusually nice. They usually have vertical scratches going along it. And this glass is borderline perfect. Let's look at the rear glass. Yeah, in Southern California, people don't rub an ice scraper over them as much as in some regions. So unusually nice glass, and all the windows roll up and down just really clean. No effort whatsoever. Door jambs, this car has not been detailed. I'm going to let the new owner do that. In fact, at our open house we had last weekend, we put a lot of miles on this in 2 or 3 cruises, and our temperature was well into the 90s, and this car did great. Even going up the mountain in a caravan of 40 other Cougars, temperature stayed right in the middle with the AC on. Here's something I want to point out. Whoever reassembled this after they did vinyl top and paint didn't quite know what they were doing. So this piece of trim is supposed to be under this piece of stainless, not over it. They got it backwards on both sides, I notice. So when you go to put on your drip rail molding, you can pound on it all you want. It's not going to stick down. So once the bitting hits 31, I'm going to fix that, and I'm going to put a set of restored drip rail moldings on there. They're not bad, but you know, again, a car of this caliber, who wants a tiny ding on their drip rail molding? Okay, again, this isn't a detailed car, but it could be. I mean, the new owner could have fun doing a few little Saturday projects. Now, originally your 2-barrel X-Code cars had a really basic truck snorkel here. One you can get any, you pull it for about $2. And a real basic air cleaner that just wasn't attractive. This is a rather expensive 1967 GT air cleaner, and I like the look. I think you should go the next step and remove this item here. This is a very rare, 1 year only, GT only part. So once you remove that item, you can get hundreds of dollars out of it, believe it or not, on eBay, or you can get in-store credit with West Coast Classic Cougar. It's just rather difficult to move when you got 9/16 bolts up against the shock tower. So anyway, I just wanted to point that out. I don't think whoever buys this is ever going to go back to original. The original intake would have had a big T on it for truck, and like I say, a very plain looking truck air cleaner, and you would have had painted valve covers. So this has been converted to a GT for all intents and purposes. They already had GT exhaust manifolds and heads. Here's why, another reason why I thought this was the perfect car to convert from a 6.5 2-barrel car to a GT. It has the competition handling package. I've never seen that. I know it's not the only one, but I personally have never seen somebody check the box for GT suspension and not get the GT chrome and carburetor on here. So anyway, moving right along, I like this, FOMO-CO. Instead of buying a brand new $300 reproduction, he spent $500 and had this redone because it is original to the car. Lots of very valuable parts here because so many of these came on a GT. Like this little bracket right here, you know, this is big block only. That's kind of a big deal. I'm not thrilled with the routing on all these hoses and stuff. The new owner could spend some time prettying this stuff up. You know, because it is a Holley aftermarket, this fuel line is a different configuration. I think we could do something a little cleaner and prettier than that. Also, the booster line and PVC, I think we can make that all look a little more original. Don't like seeing wires against, you know, a threaded item here. So I think a little care needs to be given in this engine compartment to make it top notch. Nothing terrible, it's clean, it's not rusty, got lots of rare parts, original parts. I just thought I'd point that out. I do see an original yellow top coil, the correct Midland booster, not a Bendix economy booster like you see on eBay. Look how straight all this is right here. We got original rivets with no rust here. Very common to get rust there. You got a core support that hasn't been messed with. I do see that it was in a fender bender at one time, and the previous owner wasn't even aware of this, but this apron is not original. See the lack of spot welds right there? When we get it on the rack, I'll show you the underside. But yeah, this apron is a reproduction. You got an export brace. These came factory on Shelby's and on all cars being exported to Europe. They really help in the handling. Air conditioning is pretty much original looking. Grill is a real 6.8. Again, in the fender bender, a couple little things might have been disturbed here, like this bracket here. It just seems like the angle here is just a little off. So if this was pulled this way and tapped here, that would put it back in alignment. It's nothing, I'm nitpicking it here, but whenever somebody gets a car from me and they buys it sight unseen, I don't want them to a month later go, well, I didn't know that. I want you to know everything, and we're gonna do our best to do that. Here's another thing, Andrew, I want you to look at. Almost all these hoods, even California cars, will show rust bubbles through here. And it's very easy to tell if they've been repaired, because how do you recreate, this is where they rust too, how do you recreate that if you grind it out and patch it? So this is just super solid all through here. I love that. And when you open the hood, a lot of these old cars, when you open it, you'll go like this and you'll hear the rust go inside. This one's silent. That's a good sign. Got the original hinges that still kind of line up, which is getting to be a rarity. Can't really pick apart too much in here beyond that. Original vacuum headlights. And if the bidding gets over 31, I think we could do some alignment. This has got the saggy eyelid syndrome. And notice it's at the end of its adjustment. We sell some bolts that are just a little bit longer. It takes care of that. There's a few other tricks too to get these eyelids back into adjustment. This one's even a little more pronounced. This eyelid should be about here. And it's riding here. And that's just a pet peeve of mine. So I'd like to potentially take care of that for the next owner. I do see on this original shroud with a FOMOCO part number, looks like it's been cracked and glued at one time. We're just gonna leave that alone. I mean, the new owner could get his Dremel in there and clean that up. This is the incorrect fan, and at no charge. I don't know why it ended up with a 67 fan on here, but at no charge, again, if the bidding hits 31, I'd like to change that out and put the correct C8OE fan. Basically the same fan, 7-blade with a clutch, but you might as well have the right part number poking out at you when you open the hood. All right, let's walk you through the interior. The first thing you can't help but notice is this gorgeous steering wheel on a very expensive tilt-away wheel. These columns, to find them complete and still working like this is just unheard of. This wheel was done at Best in Show, and he spent several $100s on this restoration. Most cars, even with 74,000 miles on them, will show a crack at 12 o'clock, and a lot of the wood grain definition wore off, and the mylar band turned yellow or gold or brown or just coming off. So, you know, everybody else gets to see your paint, but this is what you spend the most time with here. So I like it when people go the extra mile on the steering wheel. It's so expensive that a lot of people just put some little plastic wrap on it or something, call it good enough. He didn't spare any, I won't say he didn't spare any money on this car, but in a lot of the areas where people cut, he chose to go the extra mile. Beautiful console. I haven't gone over every inch of it, but they're often broke at the screw holes from over tightening these screws. And all 4 areas on this look perfect. Not cut because we have the original 8-track here, original knobs, no pitting on the chrome. He did spend the extra money for a full restoration on the clock, not just the little cheapy J.C. Whitney movement. New lens, just perfect. This knob could use detailing. The problem is they don't reproduce them in blue, so you're stuck with that hairline crack. And every one of them gets a crack. Even in the NOS ones, a lot of times you'll see cracks. So that's a tough item to find. This one's actually better than most. All the tips in place. The wood grain here is nice, and nobody's drilled any holes for cup holders or CB mounts. The gauges are unrestored and not showing all the crackling like they usually do. We have an overlay kit for when that happens, but this has never needed the overlay kit. Also, I want to show attention to this dash pad. I usually hate it when people do homemade covers on these, or even our plastic cover that we sell. It just looks wrong. I say spend the $500 on the dash pad, but somebody did a fantastic job covering this, and I'm going to say it looks better than original. This is real leather. This is stitched, it's straight, and the reason why covers almost never work and look good is underneath usually you have a really warped, brittle dash pad, but this dash pad, I can feel it, is still somewhat soft and it's not warped. So this turned out really nice. I would leave it alone. Another reason that covering a dash pad doesn't usually work is you cover your speaker holes. But this car is a factory stereo, so there's no speaker there. The speakers are in your kick panels. So it's just one of those rare instances where a little custom touch like this actually looks classier than original. The seats, this is a factory comfort weave car. Most XR7s came with leather. And I always like it when I see a comfort weave car for two reasons. They hold up better for a driver, and who the heck are you going to pay to do leather? If you can find the guy, he's $3,500 and he's going to have your seats for a year. So this is a nice way to skip out on that whole hassle. Good auto custom carpet, reproduction carpet. Original door panels, no cigarette burns, no screw holes. Original pull straps and hardware. Notice the wing windows have never been re-chromed and that are not pitted. Just everything about these door panels is substantially better than what I usually see. Usually those map pockets have rips in them. Could use new elastic. I see the elastic is looking kind of weak there. So a new piece of elastic in the map pocket might be good. These are the original belts, and nobody has taken scissors and cut the shoulder belts out. You had one, 6/8 was the only year, you had one for your belt and a separate one for your lap. I won't say the only year. 6/9 had it too, 70 a little different configuration. Seat frames are not broken in these. You may not know it. There's a recall in 6/8. So either the recall has been completed or this has never had a big heavy guy in it and broken the seats. They're nice and firm. They don't flex on the driver's side like often they do. Here's another nice item on this. This car is equipped with the custom seat tracks that put your seat back 2 inches further than factory. And the beauty about that is the further back you go, since the seat riser is at a tilt, the further back you go, the lower you go. So guys like me that are long-bodied, I got a little more headroom now. This is as far back as the factory would have put it. You can see the difference here. I mean, this seat goes to lined up with here, and this seat is 2 inches back. If you're not a tall guy, I at no cost, no matter what the bidding goes at, will change these out for you. And reason being, I'd like to own these expensive seat track modification pieces. I put them in all my cars. It really helps. Not very good for the person in the back seat. You got all of what, 3.5 inches of leg room now. Original seat belts. These are West Coast Classic Cougar reproduction opera lights. That's an original package tray. Usually those are cut up with aftermarket speakers or somebody's glued carpet to them, or they've just deteriorated in the UV rays. Those are really nice. I don't think there's much room for improvement in this interior. A detail, and you know, he's put my upgraded stainless steel sill plates on there, which are very nice, better than original. He's got the correct shorty hand cranks that aren't reproduced. Those are getting hard to find with no pits. The AC vents, these are not reproductions, these are original. Little steel wool will take care of that hazing on there. But this is a 1 year only, Cougar only set of air conditioning vents. It's in really great shape. Your plenum isn't all busted up from the last guy that did the heater core. That's nice to see. And did I mention cold AC? This car has all the things that can be deal breakers for your average Cougar owner. These days, everybody wants disc brakes. They want air conditioning, they want an XR-7, and they want a few options. The reason they're after a Cougar is they've been down the Mustang road and they want something a little more luxurious. And so this car marks all those boxes in my opinion. Notice the tilt-away function works, and it really does make it easier for a big guy to get in and out of here. That's a neat option. I will show you this. There's basically a design flaw in every one of these cars, and after 50 years, you get a little bit of play like that. And that's actually normal, but we've machined a correction part that'll make this rock solid. So again, if the bidding gets over 31, I'd like to take off the steering wheel and install those little pins with the C-clips in there so it tightens up that tilt and doesn't cause any future problems. Okay, I am going to, this is my first time looking at this, so I'm going to tell you what I see. I'm seeing all new suspension, and you might ask, what? It's only got 74,000 miles. Why does it have new suspension? Actually, that's all you're going to get out of a big block 6.8 suspension. Rarely are you going to get 100,000 miles, especially out of a few items like the idler arm. But yeah, I'm seeing new control arms, ball joints. Looks like original springs, new perches, KYB shocks, new tie rod ends. I'm seeing a Reman control valve here, still has a sticker on it. Seeing new hoses here, there, and everywhere. That's nice. That's $1,500 the next guy won't have to worry about for another 75,000 miles or so. Very common to see a dent in these low-hanging FE pans. Easy to take this pan off if you ever wanted to bonk the dent out of it. You know, have to remove the cross member and bonk, bonk, bonk. I don't think it needs replacing, you know, cosmetically. If you wanted to, you could put one of our premium pans on it. There's our little shield that I was talking about. Those are usually just rotted out and thin. That is solid. So again, that's a very expensive piece. I know this motor's had some work on it. It's escaping me exactly what, but in addition to the intake and 4-barrel and everything on it, it has had some work done in the motor. I don't really have anything to point out here. There's no red flags. Of course, there's no rust. But, you know, for you people on the East Coast, you like to see anyway. So let's go back here and show you what mint California, Southern California torque boxes look like. There's a torque box that's never even had surface rust, never needed working on. These frame rails, of course, are all original. Spot welds, no floor pans having been replaced, nor do they need it. A little bit of softness right here, and this is very common. I'm seeing I'm not going to poke through, but if I wailed on this, I could poke through, I think. Your heater core. A couple things happen. Your drain cock gets plugged up, your heater core goes bad, and it pools right in this area. I wouldn't worry about it. You know, it's not going to get worse unless you're, you know, abusing it. But I just need you to know there's a little bit of rust there. Don't see it as often on the driver's side. You know, you don't have you can get cowl rust on some cars, but this is all solid stuff here. We got a funky looking fuel filter here. That's different. And somebody's speedometer cable, they bought the wrong size speedometer cable. Bought this for a full-size car or something, and to get rid of the extra length, they routed it all the way through here. I'm kind of surprised the speedometer needle doesn't bounce. Usually when you do that, you get a little bit of friction in the cable and you see a little wobbling in your speedometer needle. This is new premium exhaust with the correct crossover. Fords need to have that because they build up compression in the way their firing order is. So I always like to see that crossover. Moving along, everything's solid and the way it should be. I like that they didn't do homemade exhaust hangers. This is correct. These little tabs, these horseshoe hangers, the length of these mufflers, this is all correct. Notice how close it is to the drive line here. A little bit too close here. Look at that. We need to get a bar in there and we need to massage this over. It's not like you're going to wear a hole in the drive line or anything, but that does need to be addressed. I'm not an exhaust guy. I'm going to let the new owner do that. Here we've got the original rear end. Doesn't look like it's ever been out, nor should it need to be at this low miles. Single track. See new brake hoses, new brake lines, new gas tank, correct working 3-prong sending unit. Guys doing show cars will pay well over $200 for a used sending unit like this, and that's for Mustang as well. Here we got the lower trunk drop-offs. Looks solid. That's all original, nothing welded on there. Wheelhouses. A lot of regions, this whole area gets just rotted and soft. That's solid. Same on this side. These are the original quarters. Even the sheet metal here, just really tight and right. Wheelhouses, I'm seeing no red flags there. Correct exhaust hangers in the correct place. I think these are the original leaf springs. Yeah, here we go. I think I'm seeing an original part number there. So I have to get a wire brush on that to tell. But they do appear to be original, never touched. No clunks back here. Everything feels good and smooth and quiet going down the highway. This is where I like to look for rear end damage, whereas this valance might have got bumped. And again, I think a guy could massage that with his hands. I'm not going to do it. This is all just the way it should be from the factory. This car has not been rear-ended. You do see some holes having been drilled here. So at one point, it probably had a trailer hitch. This is where your bracket would have gone. And then if they did it right, it would have gone up here and you would have seen some more holes. So it must have been a really light duty hitch for them not to put the holes here. I do not see any holes here where the bracket would have gone. So that would have been for a tiny little rowboat or something that didn't need the extra bracketry. No evidence of rust or pimples or anything here. I'm going to pull the trunk mat and we're going to get the camera down in these voids and look for any previous repair. Okay, kind of boring. I can't pick it apart really. Got the correct C6 here. This should be all numbers matching. Motor mount's showing some wear here. It's not broken, but I do see some stress on this 50-year-old rubber motor mount, and I do see the original Ford part number. So that motor mount is the original. I like seeing that kind of stuff. A car that's been abused, there's no way the driver's side, especially the driver's side, motor mount would last 50 years. Okay, here we are looking at the replaced apron. I can't see where anything was wrinkled besides the apron. So this is key. This is basically your frame. I know it's a unibody car, but this is what we call a frame rail. And I don't see any damage from a collision in any way here. So they probably hit something a little taller and went under it, and it boogered up probably this fender and that apron only. And this fender cannot be the original. If you've wrinkled an apron, there's no way that you're going to have a mint fender. And this fender doesn't have, in fact, aha, let's get a rag. I think I'm seeing red oxide primer here. So this happened such a long time ago that they were able to get a red oxide fender. And that's a big deal because red oxide means that it was one of the early replacements. Later, they were black primer. And the later you go down the road in service replacement parts, the more worn the tooling is. So my suspicions are correct. This is an early service replacement part that was done long ago. Okay, this having the GT suspension upgrade package. This is a bigger sway bar than what you'd see on other Xcode cars or small block cars. Of course, you'll never be able to see it, but those coil springs are just a tiny bit bigger in diameter, and your rear leaf springs are heavier duty. So that's really cool. This has the, same suspension as a 427 GTE, give or take. I love it when original owners have something to pass on to the next guy and have, oh, look at this. Here's all your major repairs done. Nice, neat notes here. Here's your Marty report. I love that. Look at that, so you don't have to guess. Here's your Marty report showing all the good stuff. Heavy duty suspension, the tilt-away, vinyl roof, and this was a factory blue car. 275 gears. Makes this quiet and smooth down the road, and it doesn't overheat. I know that's kind of mundane. The next guy can put 325 traction lock on it, but I like this car as a driver, not a full-on muscle car. Here we go, original not build sheet, but factory invoice. And what did they pay for this car? New. There you go. The base car was $3,000. You add some goodies, it jacks it up. Johnson & Son Lincoln Mercury in Costa Mesa. I'm going to let Andrew scan some of these things and some neat articles about the previous owner, warranty card, lots of pictures from the day, all good stuff that I'm going to let Andrew scan and put on the auction. What I really want to show you is under the trunk mat. Drum roll, please. I've never been here. This is unknown for me. And we got the good quality thick rubber trunk mat here. Here we go. This is the #1 place you see rust. As I've said before, this did not get painted in this area because of the way they were suspended on the line, and the factory never put rubber plugs in here, so somebody's added that. So I see pock marks here, but this is not rusted out like most cars get, because this is the low spot in the trunk. Nice clean in this valley. I like to see that. Taillight panel looks pretty good. Let's get behind this taillight panel. Let's show here. That's factory stamping there. Original part numbered beam here. That crease is factory. I like what I see in here. Let's see if I can actually get down in this valley with a camera, Andrew. I like to show that this has never been seamed in or patched. It's all original. It's had some water down there at one time, but could use detailing. And that is the original sound deadener sprayed on here. Notice how wonky it is and messy and uneven. That's how they did it. This shows that it's never been hit here. If you even slightly tap this brittle old stuff just falls off. I also like to see a 90-degree here, not full of Bondo. I always run my fingers in this corner here and feel for abnormalities. I'm going to leave that alone. We're going to go over to this side. Okay, I'm seeing the same thing over here. I'm seeing less, actually. Just a little bit of pockmarking around here. All this messy stuff, that is factory. I know it doesn't look, you wouldn't think they would have been that messy, but yeah, they globbed it on and boogered it up and went right over the clip. That's all factory. Let's see if he's got the updated solid state sequential unit. Yes, he does. Look at that. That's beautiful. And I do believe this car has plasma LEDs. Such an important thing for two reasons. Turn signal switches in these cars are notoriously weak. They're designed for 2 taillights from a Mustang. These cars have 6. Overloads the turn signal switch. You burn them up left and right. Much brighter, and you don't burn out your turn signal switches anymore. And of course, you don't have to change anything. You don't have to go solid state to run them. They're plug and play. What do you see down there, Andrew? What do you mean, eh?
Some debris.
Some debris. Do you see any patches? You see any pink Bondo worms?
No.
No, I'm thinking it looks beautifully clean here. Okay, I'm going to look at this quarter panel right here. Again, I want to run my fingers in this 90, and they are perfect. Very rare to have a pair of quarters never hit, never rusted, never patched. I just can't pick this apart in here. I also want to point out this deck lid. This is amongst the best you'll ever see. Zero swelling of that seam, no rust, no indication of being hit. It's just perfect. I do want to point out that this is a NOS service replacement deck lid molding. It should be aluminum. It is stainless. Stainless wears much better, doesn't scratch from your key, doesn't ding as easy, but stainless doesn't quite match the sheen of the aluminum. So if the bidding hits 31 and you'd like a restored, correct aluminum deck lid molding on here, I'd go ahead and change that out for you. I do notice, I missed this before, look here, from misalignment, we see a little chip here. And I think what it is at one time, you know, this was put on and the tolerance was just a little too tight here. So sometimes all you have to do to fix that, no, it's still a little tight. So this needs to be loosened up on the hinges and brought over. I'm not a paint touch-up guy. I'm going to leave that alone. The new owner is going to worry about that, not me. What I like is all the gauges on this work. Usually one of them there's an excuse for it, but I mean the speedometer, the amp, the fuel gauge, which is so hard, like I mentioned earlier, to find a working 3-prong sending unit. The temperature, it really does run cool. That's where it's supposed to be. Oil pressure, clock. This is cool. Once in a while you'll get a working 8-track, but it sounds so terrible you don't dare listen to it. You just want to show people it actually works. Well, he had this one restored, big money, and it actually sounds pretty damn good. I know it won't sound good through your computer, but I got full stereo here. Let's go for a ride. I like that shift. You don't get that in a 302. Woo, that feels good. Now, people will ask me, wow, 390, is it fast? No, none of our cars are fast anymore. But it is nice to have something that when you punch it, going up a hill at 50, it goes to 70 quick, and you feel it in the back of your seat. And it has a nice V8 rumble. And I also like quiet original exhaust. This exhaust is just very quiet until you step on it, and then you hear that V8 thing. I don't like that drone in my ears at a stoplight and blah, 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 blah. I'm beyond that. I just want a nice, smooth, quiet, just like they were designed. These weren't designed to be hot rods. Oh yeah, the Cobra Jets and the 427s a little bit, but not these cars. These are just meant to be comfortable performance cars. Okay, I want to tell you about the brakes on this car. The brakes on this car are 100% new, front to back, with premium quality parts. He even went the extra mile to have the rear brake shoes profiled to the drums. Why? Because they had a braking problem they couldn't figure out. It just took too much pressure. And they gave the car to me, and they're like, I've taken it to a couple people and nobody can figure out. I took off the air cleaner and in 3 seconds spotted the problem. And you might want to check this out too. Somebody had put brand new hose on the booster, but in fine print, what did it say? Fuel line. So the problem was, you'd start up the car and the brakes felt okay, and then it would get warm, and then they wouldn't brake right. It took too much effort. Reason being, fuel line was never meant to be vacuum line, and the hotter rubber gets, the more pliable it gets. So the vacuum was collapsing the hose, causing a restriction and starving the booster for vacuum. So I love it when you got a problem like that you can fix in seconds for a couple dollars. And the benefit is, in them chasing that problem, they replaced everything, whether it needed it or not. So you have a brand new, within the last couple of years, braking system on this, and it really feels good, I have to say. I'm not going to say this is, you know, Audi A4, but I am going to do a panic stop here, and you're going to notice I'm not fighting the wheel and nothing's going crazy here. So let's just get her up to 60-ish, 50, whatever. Nice, look at that. That's a rare treat for a 50-year-old car. These cars are known for sitting, and almost always, you know, your left rear wheel cylinder will lock up first, or your right rear, or it'll pull one way to the other. It's just so rare to be able to do a panic stop. And I'm going to do a little harder this time. Wow. Well, I'm hoping my presentation gives you enough information to bid intelligently. I really feel like this car checks a lot of boxes. I really like the stance of the car. You know, from the factory, a lot of times they seem to have a reverse rake and sit a little high in front and low in back. I think this has the perfect stance, the perfect set of tires, a very sought after color combo. It's got all the right options. It's a big block, it's an XR-7, it's blue. The low miles is unheard of. And the fact that nobody's boogered with this car. I think this is going to be a great car for somebody that doesn't want a show car but wants something nice enough to show and go. So good luck on the auction.